Welcome to Construction Genius, and today we have a special episode. It's a solo show where I am going to be breaking down the Netflix culture document. It's called The Best Work of Our Lives. And we dive into the 4 core principles that Netflix operates by, as well as the values that they hold dear. And the purpose of this particular episode is to help you to reflect on the core principles and values that are driving your business and whether or not they're working for you. So I think you'll find it very interesting. Give me your feedback. Give the show a rating or a review, obviously, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's dive right in. And thank you for listening here today. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Welcome to the live stream, and we are diving in today to the new Netflix, or the updated Netflix culture document. It's called Netflix Culture, the Best Work of Our Lives. I think it's really important as folks in the construction industry to look outside of our industry to see how other companies are managing, leading, expressing, developing their cultures. And so what I'm going to do in this live stream is take time to read through this document and comment on it as it relates to the construction industry. And you might think, well, Eric, why are we looking at Netflix? What does that have to do with construction? It doesn't directly have to do with construction, obviously, and what they do, but it's the people side that we're interested in, right? Because people are people, whether they're in construction or whether they're in entertainment. And what can we learn from what Netflix is doing with their culture that can help us to improve or develop our cultures? Or perhaps what could we look at in terms of what Netflix is doing and say, no, that does not work for me and for my organization. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to start reading it, and then I'll comment on it as we go through. At Netflix, by the way, the title of the document, Netflix Culture, the Best Work of Our Lives. All right. So at Netflix, we aspire to entertain the world, thrilling audiences everywhere. Okay, so they have a big, hairy, audacious goal, you could say, to entertain the world. What's important is that they're clear on what they're trying to do. How clear are you on what you aspire to in the company that you work with, in the company that you lead and the company that you manage? How clear is your company on that? To do that, we've developed an unusual company culture focused on excellence and creating an environment where talented people can thrive, lifting ourselves, each other, and our audiences higher and higher. And you might read that and say, blah, 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 blah. And it's true. Any document like this, any cultural statement that you're making is definitely a bunch of blah, 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 unless it's actually implemented in the way that you run your business. It's interesting, as we go through this document, there is no clear or definitive definition of excellence, but what I think you'll find is as you go through the document, that excellence is expounded upon, what that excellence means. And it's interesting here where they want to create an environment where talented people can thrive. And I'd like to say this, is that the success of your company is directly related to your ability as the leader of your construction company to allow, to develop a place where talented people can thrive. Okay, let's go back to the document. This document is about that culture, which is based on 4 core principles. Number 1, the dream team. We aim only to have high performers at Netflix, people who are great at what they do and even better at working together. Notice the tension right there. Not only great at what they do, but good at working together. So think about every single person in your organization. They have to have technical skills, but they also have to have relational skills. Construction is a team sport where you have to have folks who understand the technical aspects of the business, but also are able to work not only internally with people, but externally with subcontractors, general contractors, clients, industry partners. Number 2, people over process. This is interesting for construction companies. You get better outcomes when employees have the information and freedom to make decisions for themselves. We hire unusually responsible people who thrive on this openness and freedom. Obviously, in construction, having good processes that your folks execute is tremendously important. And yet, it is also important to give your people a degree of freedom in executing those processes in the real-time situations that they're in. Now, you may make more of an emphasis on process over people, and that's perfectly acceptable. I'm not presenting this to say that you must take on what Netflix is doing, but I think you should think about how they position themselves in terms of people over process, and we'll get more details on that as we go through this. Number 3, uncomfortably exciting. To entertain the world, we need to be bold and ambitious. That means embracing the thrill of what's next, even when it's uncomfortable. Now, you may not want your people to be that bold or perhaps that ambitious. You need them to deliver projects safely, efficiently, with good quality and good schedule adherence. And yet, at the same time, you have to be able to innovate the way that you're doing work so that you can continually respond to market needs and be getting better as a company in the way that you execute projects. And that leads us to number 4, great and always getting better. We often say Netflix sucks today compared to where we can be tomorrow. We need the self-awareness to understand what should be better and the discipline and resilience to get there. And later on in the document, they'll dive more into that idea of self-awareness. And that's critical. You as a leader need self-awareness, and your people need self-awareness. And as a result of that, an understanding of where perhaps you fall short in the way that you're executing your work, or the way that you're communicating, or the way that you're taking care of your customers, or the way that you're developing new business. Self-awareness is really important. Okay, back to the document here. While we don't always live up to these principles, most people who join Netflix are pleasantly surprised by how great their colleagues are and the way we empower people at every level. As our business grows and evolves, our culture and this document will too. What won't change is our focus on excellence and our determination to ensure that Netflix remains a place where great people can do the best work of their lives. I just want to stop right there. Is your company a place where great people can do the best work of their lives? I tell you, it's tremendously challenging to develop a company like that. It requires a great deal of discipline, a great deal of commitment, and a willingness to be fanatical in finding the right people for the right seats in your organization. Okay, back to the document. If this sounds exciting, you'll probably love it here, but Netflix is not for everyone, so please read on. Now, keep in mind, Netflix is in the technology world. They're also in the creative world. And you can imagine the tremendous amount of competition that exists for both people who are capable with technology and capable with the creative aspects of their business. Just like in construction, construction is tremendously competitive in terms of attracting, retaining, developing talented people. But you must be willing to not only attract talent, but to clearly state what your company is all about, and therefore repel the wrong people from your organization. That's one thing I like about what Netflix is doing here. They're making this statement because they want to make it clear that Netflix is not for everyone. It's not the place for everyone to work. Okay. Now we're going to dive into a little more detail on each one of these core principles. The dream team. We believe that what makes a fantastic workplace isn't a great office or free meals and massages, although we have some nice perks. It's the people. Imagine working alongside stunning colleagues who are great at what they do and even better at working together. And again, I think there's some tension there. You know, in construction, there's those operators, let's say, who are kick-ass operators. They're technically brilliant, but they're a bit prickly and hard to be around. And if you're going to embrace the Netflix way of doing things, you're going to say, we not only want people with technical skill, but we want people who can work well together. Now, you may choose in your company not to do that, and that's perfectly okay. I'm presenting this to you as food for thought, right? Okay, back to the document. It's why we model ourselves on a professional sports team, not a family. Families are about unconditional love. They can also be dysfunctional, as anyone who's watched Ozark or Wednesday knows. I'm a little familiar with Ozark. I have no idea what Wednesday is, but it's a true statement here. And this is key. Back to the document here, because this is great. Professional sports teams, on the other hand, focus on performance and picking the right person for every position, even when that means swapping out someone they love for a better player. This right here, I think, is one thing that every single company should embrace. We are not a family. We are a business. We are in business to make money, to serve our customers. And with that in mind, having that professional sports team mentality is an excellent way. Because if you think of your business in that way, you don't care where the talent comes from. Because all you want to do is win. All you want to do is build your projects on time, on budget, with high quality, killer safety, and develop long-term relationships with people. And it doesn't matter the background or the ethnicity or any such thing like that in terms of who you're going to bring on. You're only going to bring on the best people, and you're never going to settle until you develop that team. And once you have that team, you're going to keep pushing that team to continue to perform at the highest possible level. Back to the document. While every member of our dream team has different skills, we look for common strengths that make us better together. These are the values we value. Now, what do we mean by values? Values are simply ways of behaving that are observable. Okay? And if you're going to be effective in defining your values and then enforcing your values, you have to be able to sit down with your core team and ask, how is it that we behave? What are those values that we have that are non-negotiable? In other words, you must behave in these ways if you're going to work in our company. Let's dive in a little more detail. First one, selflessness. You are humble when searching for the best ideas. You seek what's best for Netflix, not yourself or your team. You take time to help others succeed. Now, this is tremendously challenging in a lot of construction companies. We compete between project teams. We compete between divisions. Construction's really competitive. And though a lot of our competitive fire should be saved for our actual competitors, sometimes it's seen within an organization, and that can be detrimental. And so you should always be looking for people who seek what's best for the organization, even if it may deter or detract from what their particular team is trying to achieve and accomplish. So in other words, let's say you have a foreman, and you want that particular foreman and his crew on your project, and someone else is competing for them. And so you get together with the project manager or the superintendent, and you decide what's best for the organization right now. Who really needs that crew right now? And sometimes you're willing to take the hit for the betterment of the organization. Now, if people are going to be willing to take hits for the betterment of the organization, they have to know that that will be acknowledged by upper management. And that will be recognized, and that will be taken into account when folks are being evaluated. Okay, back to the document here. The next one is judgment. You look beyond short-term fixes in favor of long-term solutions. You make wise decisions despite ambiguity. You use data to inform your intuition. I love that. Okay, so we're playing long-term games with long-term people. And in construction, we have a bunch of data, which is excellent. And we have our intuition, and we're marrying those two to figure out what's going on in our with our projects, what's going on in our relationships, what's going on in our organizations. We have intuition and we have data. Next value is candor. You willingly receive and give feedback. You are open about what's working and what needs to improve. You admit mistakes openly and share learnings widely. There's so much in here that's tremendously beneficial. If you make a mistake, and you as the leader of your construction company, you have to be the one who raises your hand first if you made a mistake and admit it quickly. Okay, and this is really important for your project teams. It's really interesting. You might get a project manager who hoards particular information instead of sharing information or sharing ideas or sharing techniques. And you must create a culture by hiring people who are willingly sharing learnings widely throughout the organization because they have the company's best interest in mind. Next one is creativity. You welcome new ideas. You are passionate and persistent in pursuit of more innovative solutions. You value artistic expression. Now, you may not value artistic expression in your construction company, but you are welcoming new ideas and you are always looking for innovative solutions. Courage. You are vulnerable in search for the truth. You are willing to risk failure or challenge the status quo in the pursuit of excellence. So when I think of risking failure, obviously you want to mitigate that in construction because failure can be tremendously costly financially and also safety-wise. So take that with a grain of salt. But this idea of challenging the status quo, I think, is very important. If you're stuck in, we've always done things this way in our company, then it's always great to bring in new people who are willing to challenge that status quo and perhaps come up with new ideas for the way a project should be executed. Hey, this is Eric. As we are in the middle of this discussion about Netflix and their culture, I want to remind you about my book, Construction Genius. Effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. Go out to Amazon, another great company, and purchase 10 copies for yourself and your leaders. Shoot me an email, and I'll come in and do a free 1-hour training session, question and answer session about the book with your leadership team. And all you have to do is spend under $200. 10 copies times $19.95, according to my tremendous math skills, is under $200. That session I would normally charge $3,500 for. And for you, it's under $200. So go out, get the book. It's a killer book. I know you'll love it. And now back to our discussion about Netflix. Inclusion. This is interesting. You recognize your biases and work to counteract them. You try to ensure everyone at Netflix can do their best work, whatever their culture, identity, or background. And I'd like to make a point here about true inclusivity, because if we're looking at our company as a sports team, okay, and we're not a family, nor are we a political organization, we're a sports team that wants to perform at the highest level, then any biased, natural bias that I have towards someone's background or their culture or their identity, I'm going to remove and I'm going to focus on what can this person perform? How does this person perform? What can they do to help our company achieve our goals? And you have to work very hard in your organization in order to do that. Next value, curiosity. You learn rapidly and eagerly. You are interested in other people's ideas as your own. You're humble about what you don't yet know. Important from the top of the organization all the way down. Resilience. You quickly adapt to changing circumstances. You make tough decisions without agonizing or long delay. You embrace a hard challenge. That sounds like construction right there. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to make tough decisions in a timely manner, and you have to be willing to do hard stuff. Okay. Now they go on here. It's easy to talk about values and harder to live them. We work hard to keep each other accountable for upholding these standards, especially our leaders, because excellence and honesty go hand in hand. Let me just stop right there. Sometimes when people get into leadership roles, they forget what got them there in terms of living out values, and they begin to fudge a little bit simply because they have this new position where they think they've made it. And it's particularly important for the leaders to be the ones who are the examples of the values that you have stated and you hold dear in your organization. Back to the document. It's why we invest in strong professional relationships that build trust and help people assume good intent. This in turn enables us to practice extraordinary candor, ensuring constructive feedback is part of our everyday work, like brushing your teeth. It takes courage and vulnerability to ask someone how you can do better, or to seek alternative opinions, and integrity only to say things about a colleague you're willing to share with them directly. I just want to stop right there. Many construction companies have these little gossip mills going on. He said, she said, all this kind of BS stuff, right? How about exemplifying in your behavior and insisting throughout your organization that people only say things about colleagues that they're willing to share with them directly? How very interesting. Now that takes candor and courage. Back to the document. This is especially true when giving feedback to someone more senior or from a different background, or if you come from a culture or company where deference is the norm. But extraordinary candor helps us improve faster as individuals and a company. So let me ask you, as a senior person, the leader of your construction company, are you willing for anyone to come up to you and give feedback as far as what they think needs to be done in the organization? Or are you unapproachable? If you can exemplify that, if you can be an example of someone who's willing to get feedback from anyone, it can so refresh your culture and keep it innovative and keep it alive. Back to the document. Since a high performer in any role is many times more effective than an average employee, our dream team is driven by performance, not seniority, tenure, or unconditional loyalty. It's also why we focus on maintaining a high-performance culture. To recruit and retain stunning colleagues, we pay personal top of the market for the role and location. A judgment about what that person could make in a similar role at another company, and what we would pay to keep or replace them. We expect leaders to be developers, strong developers of talent, and to ensure that they have the right player at every position. Now, here it is. This is one of the key aspects right here. And I tell you, I know from working with contractors for over 2 decades that the number one problem that most of them face is this. It's having the wrong person in the wrong position. And Netflix has a great way to address that, and let's focus in on it. I'll go back to it. And to ensure that they have the right player at every position, we ask them to apply what we call the keeper test. Asking, if X wanted to leave, would I fight to keep them? Or, knowing everything I know today, would I hire X again? If the answer is no, we believe it's fairer to everyone to part ways quickly. I tell you, if you take on that mentality, that keeper test, think about the person that you're struggling with most in your organization right now. They may be talented. They may be a long-term employee. You may have a personal relationship with them. You may like them. But ask this. If they came into your office today and said, I'm going down the street to your competition, would you fight to keep them? Or would you breathe a sigh of relief, shake their hands, and part friends? If you're breathing a sigh of relief and shaking hands and parting friends, you should be doing something about that. You must insist on the right people in the right positions in your organization. Okay, back to the document. In the abstract, the keeper test can sound scary. In reality, we encourage everyone to speak to their managers about what's going well and what's not on a regular basis. This helps avoid surprises. Managers also evaluate team members on their whole record, rather than focusing on the mistakes or bets that didn't pay off. On the dream team, you need people who challenge the status quo and try new things. So we stick with employees through short-term bumps. That's excellent right there. No matter how brilliant someone may be, there's no place in our dream team for people who don't treat their colleagues with decency and respect. When you have talented people who work well together, trusting each other's intentions and respecting their differences, it makes everyone more successful. Okay, next value, people over process. Many of us have worked at companies where decisions were made top down, There was little transparency, and it felt hard to make a difference or even get basic things done. At Netflix, we aim to inspire and empower more than just manage, because people can have greater impact when they're free to make decisions about their own work. And this is something that every company has to decide. You have to be able to, so to speak, create the sandbox that your employees play in, and then allow them to play in the sandbox. Don't be one of those helicopter parents that are always coming in and saying, "Oh, watch out, don't get the sand in your eye." Create the sandbox, and it can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be following Netflix's ideas. It can be your ideas. But one of the keys to getting people to perform at the highest possible level is a degree of autonomy and freedom. So create that sandbox, and once you've created it, allow people to do their thing in the sandbox. Okay, back to the document. As part of this, we strive to develop good decision-making muscles at every level of the company. Excellent phrase there. Priding ourselves on how few, not how many, decisions senior leaders make. We expect managers to practice context, not control, giving their teams the context and clarity needed to make good decisions instead of trying to control everything themselves. So let me give you an example. Context would be something like this. We want to deliver this project safely and on budget and on time. That's context. You give them the context, and then you give them the freedom to achieve that using the talents and skills that they have. We also help employees learn by sharing a lot of information internally, including through memos where they can comment and ask questions. It takes an unusually responsible person to thrive on this level of freedom. Someone who's self-motivated, self-aware, and self-disciplined, who doesn't wait to be told what to do and picks up the trash like they would at home. Tell your friends, bring someone in and observe them for a little bit. Are they self-motivated? Are they self-disciplined? Can they pick up the trash without being told what to do? These are the types of people you want in your organization. That said, context, not control, should not be confused with hands-off management. Very interesting here. Managers need to be involved in the work being done around them and actively coach their teams. And I think this is one of the tremendous shifts that's happening in construction at the moment. Construction has a lot of similarity to military organization, sort of command and control, but it's shifting more in the last 15, 20 years to a coach-player sort of mentality. And so if you're going to be a successful leader, it's not going to be through command and control anymore. It's going to be through coaching. But coaching requires that you have relationships with your people and that you allow them some areas of failure and development. And you can specifically point out to them how they should perform, not coming in and playing the game yourself, but standing on the sideline and giving them clear direction. Okay, back to the document. They may also have to step in when someone is about to make a decision that is unethical or could materially harm Netflix during a crisis, or if a new team member lacks the full context. Okay, again, excellent. We avoid decision-making by committee, which tends to slow companies down and undermine accountability. For every significant decision, we identify an informed captain who's responsible for making a judgment call on the right way ahead. Notice the language there. A judgment call. Okay, not every decision is correct, but people often get paralyzed by no decision and the company never moves forward. Okay, back to the document. Then different teams, each led by their own informed captain, implement the decision. This highly aligned and loosely coupled approach gives teams the freedom to move quickly and operate independently while ensuring responsibility for the outcome. That's what you want to develop in your organization. People have freedom to make decisions, to operate independently, but they also take responsibility for the outcome. Back to the document. We've learned that the best ideas can come from anywhere, which is why we expect informed captains to seek out different opinions and listen to people at every level. We call this farming for dissent. Of course, not all opinions are created equal, and with 10,000 plus employees, it's impractical for everyone to weigh in on most decisions. So, on an important creative decision, for example, the opinion of someone working in TV, film, or games will carry more weight than an engineer, and vice versa, when it comes to our product or technology. So that makes a lot of sense, right? The opinion of your foreman who's actually building the project perhaps will carry more weight than the project manager who's managing the project. It depends on the decision, right? Okay. After a decision is made, we expect everyone, including the people who argued for a different approach, to disagree and commit. This helps ensure the outcome is as successful as possible. Afterwards, when the impact is clear, the informed captain should reflect on their choices, what worked and what didn't, so everyone can learn how to do better next time. So you see the cycle there, right? So we make a decision. If you disagree, you commit. The decision is executed. And then whatever the outcome is, we learn from that decision. So there has to be that degree of humility and willingness to work together to understand that my ideas may not be implemented. And whatever idea is implemented, I am going to commit to it. And then the people whose idea is chosen, they have to be willing to receive feedback on the outcome of that idea and how well it was executed and what could be done better. Okay, back to the document. Launching a game, TV show, or film, running a marketing campaign, managing compensation, and closing a quarter all take process. And companies need strict rules against things like harassment, marginalizing colleagues, leaking company information, or insider trading. But we work hard to keep rules at Netflix to a minimum and ensure any process is good, simple, efficient, impactful. Just let me stop right there. Think about all the processes you use in your organization. Are they simple? Are they efficient? Are they impactful? And are they focused on doing what you need to do to succeed as a construction company, which is to win work with the right clients in the right locations and the right project types, and then build those projects on time, on budget, with high safety and high quality, okay? Think about all of your processes and make sure that they are simple, efficient, and impactful to that end. Back to the document now. Our vacation policy, for example, is 2 words: take vacation. And our expenses policy is just 5 words: act in Netflix best interests. Very interesting. Now, you may not have that exact same policy for either of those 2 things, but that's something to reflect on. How complex are your policies, and how does that reflect the fact that you may be having to manage the wrong people in your organization? Because if you have the right people in the right positions, perhaps you will need less policies and less regulations to manage them. Okay, back to the document. This almost no rules rule gives employees the freedom to exercise their judgment. It also prevents the process creep that typically happens when companies grow and try to dummy-proof their organizations, stifling creativity and making it harder for businesses to adapt. You might think this kind of freedom would lead to chaos. In reality, while we've had our fair share of failures, and a few people have taken advantage of our culture in bad ways, our emphasis on individual autonomy has created an extremely successful business with many opportunities for employees to develop and grow. In entertainment and technology, our biggest threat is a lack of creativity, adaptability, and innovation. It's why we try to minimize rules and processes rather than errors, while giving people the freedom to use their own judgment and learn from their mistakes. It's a far superior recipe for long-term success. Okay, so think about that in your construction company. All right, here's another core here. Uncomfortably exciting. Netflix is programming for well over 500 million people globally, something no other entertainment company has ever done before. Success requires us to be bold and ambitious, to think differently, experiment, and adapt often quickly. This is true whether we're designing a new product feature, working to improve our recommendations, developing a marketing campaign, or creating a TV show or game. Many people will be happier at companies that are more stable and take fewer risks. Netflix works best if you value experimentation, enjoy the uncomfortable excitement of a new or challenging project, and have the resilience to thrive in this environment. Again, this is unique to Netflix. It may not be exactly for your organization. You may be tremendously stable, and you're just looking for people to come into the organization and perpetuate that stability. But you may be an organization that's new or that has that vibe of adaptation and creativity and entrepreneurship. And so you're looking for the right people in the right roles with the right mindsets. Okay. Next core principle here, artistic expression. Like Netflix, what does that have to do with construction? Well, see what you can take out of it here. Representation matters. This is interesting here, by the way. Our members come from many different backgrounds and cultures, and they want to see a wide variety of stories and people on screen. This diversity is wonderful, and it can create real tension since we all have such different views about what's acceptable and what's harmful on TV. While every show, film, or game is different, we approach them with the same set of principles. We support the artistic expression of the creators we choose to work with. We program for a wide variety of audiences, cultures, and tastes, and we provide ratings, content advisories, and parental controls in multiple languages to help members choose what to watch or play. As employees, we support these principles, even if some stories run counter to our personal values. And we understand that depending on our roles, we may need to work on TV shows, films, or games we perceive to be harmful. If you find it hard to support the breadth of our slate, Netflix is probably not the best place for you. It's very interesting, right? Netflix does a variety of different entertainment, has a variety of different entertainment options with a variety of different entertainers. And that can offend some people, okay? It's interesting. You have to be willing to be offended if you're going to work at Netflix. Now, in your company, that may not be the case. But the point is, what Netflix is doing here is they're being very open about what it means to work at Netflix. And because they're not afraid to repel the wrong people, and they're also focused on attracting the right people. So that's why you have to be able to identify your core principles and stand by those core principles so that you can do exactly the same. Because if you're committed to excellence, if you're committed to having a tremendously successful company that you can perpetuate for a number of years, it's going to require you attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people. Okay, next core principle. Great and always better. Netflix has come a long way since we mailed our first DVD in 1998, but we're nowhere close to where we want to be in the future. So that's very interesting. How long have you been in business? How stagnant are you right now, perhaps? How complacent are you because things are going so well? Perhaps you need to shake things up a little bit. You see, Netflix has this culture where they're never satisfied. And I think if you're going to model your company after that idea of a professional franchise, you should always model it over the best franchises who aren't there just there to keep the fans coming in and making money, but they're really focused on winning as much as possible, as often as possible. Okay, back to the document. It's why we care so much about the dream team, putting people over processes and creating an environment where everyone feels a sense of responsibility to make us better. We believe this approach is the surest path to excellence and long-term success. It's also why we constantly seek to improve our culture, not preserve it. Very interesting, huh? Every new employee helps shape how we work, finding new ways to accomplish more together. So that's interesting because if you're clear on the types of employees that you want, and you're attracting the right types of employees, then you're perfectly happy that they help to shape the way that you work. And you're perfectly happy that they're coming in with new ideas or different ways of looking at things because those are the people that you're looking for. Okay, back to the document. This creates a better experience for our members, employees, creators, and partners, which in turn propels our long-term growth and success. It's how we entertain the world and build a wildly successful business. Good question for you to ask yourself. How do you define success, and is your business wildly successful? If it's not wildly successful, what you have to look at is the technical proficiency of the people that you have in your organization and the cultural fit of those people. Do you have the right people in the right position in your organization? Do you even know what those core principles are that drive your business that you use then to attract the right people and repel the wrong people? If you haven't gone through that exercise yet, you definitely have to do that. Okay? All right, back to the document. We're almost done here. As he has, since our first cultural deck was written in 2009, the author of The Little Prince, I can't pronounce his name, but it's Antoine de Saint-Exupéry or something like that. The author of The Little Prince shows us the way. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather wood, divide the work and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. Now, that may sound a little hokey to you. It sounds a touch hokey to me. But The point is there's this idea of aspiration that people have. And you must marry people's technical skills and their people skills with a sense of aspiration. And what is the aspiration that is really driving your organization? The aspiration of Netflix is to entertain the world. Now, your aspiration may be to simply build great projects for the right clients in the location that you're in, and that's perfectly acceptable. But understand your aspiration. Understand the types of people that you want to work in your organization. Understand the technical skills that they have to have. And insist on bringing in the right people and putting them in the right position. And then finally, let me just end it by saying this. Take that sports team approach. It doesn't matter people's cultural background. It doesn't matter their political affiliations or anything like that in your organization. What matters is that they can ball out, that they're willing to come in every day and work tremendously hard to acquire the right projects with the right clients in the right locations, and then build those projects on time, on budget, safely, with tremendous quality, so that you can continue to perpetuate your business moving forward. All right. Now, that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. I hope you had a lot of fun listening, and I appreciate you taking the time, and hope you have a tremendous day. Hey, this is Eric. Thank you for listening. And we are going to link in the show notes to that Netflix culture document so that you can review it, consider it, think about how it may apply or not apply in your organization. Give the show a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Share this episode with others. Shoot me some feedback, eric@constructiongenius.com. What did you like about this episode? Should I do more like this where we break down companies' cultures and think about how it might apply to our business and our businesses? Anyway, thanks again for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode.